begin with that political whiplash yesterday from the president, a whiplash we've been seeing for months now, but in events within 2 hours of each other. Trump first passed blame to Senate Republicans for a stalled agenda in the cabinet room, and then hours later, standing in the Rose Garden with the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, claimed to be closer than ever before and promised big developments.
Despite what the press writes, I have great relationships with actually many senators, but in particular with most Republican senators. But we're not getting the job done. And I'm not going to blame myself, I'll be honest. They are not getting the job done. My relationship with this gentleman is outstanding, has been outstanding. We are working very hard to get the tax cuts. We will continue to work hard to get the health care completed.
We also saw that split personality when it came to addressing the, quote, war that his former strategist Steve Bannon has declared on the Republican establishment. Bannon is plotting primary challenges to Republican incumbents and is targeting races around the country next year. Here's the president responding to similar questions about Bannon, first in the cabinet room, and then, stay with us, the Rose Garden alongside Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Mr. President, do you approve of Steve Bannon's war on Mitch McConnell and the Republican establishment?
Well, Steve is very committed. He's a friend of mine, and he's very committed to getting things passed. We've had health care approved, and then you had a surprise vote by John McCain. We've had other things happen, and they're not getting the job done. And I can understand where Steve Bannon's coming from, and I can understand, to be honest with you, John, I can understand where a lot of people are coming from, because I'm not happy about it, and a lot of people aren't happy about it.
Do you support the plan by people who previously served in your administration, such as Steve Bannon, to primary Republican candidates in the 2018 elections who do not support your agenda?
Well, I have a very good relationship, as you know, with Steve Bannon. Steve's been a friend of mine for a long time. I like Steve a lot. Steve is doing what Steve thinks is the right thing. Some of the people that he may be looking at, I'm going to see if we talk him out of that, because, frankly, they're great people.
I mean, Joe, this sort of just kind of brings home the point that whatever he says will be refuted moments later, possibly. How do you work with him?
Well, you don't. And in that picture, I'm not looking at Donald Trump. Yeah. And I'm not saying, what's Donald Trump doing there? I'm not surprised. I'm not saying... I'm not trying to figure Donald Trump out. We figured Donald Trump out. Yeah. Willie Geist, I'm looking at Mitch McConnell, and I'm saying, why the hell are you there? I mean, when I don't care what you're doing, I don't care who you are, when somebody, when the president goes after you as much as Donald Trump's gone after Mitch McConnell, when Steve Bannon says, I'm going to destroy Mitch McConnell, you know, I don't want to give Mitch McConnell any advice, but it's pretty simple. You tell the president, Mr. President, if you stand by Mitch McConnell's side, you can't stand by my side. If you support a man and say you understand what he's doing, and he, you know, a guy who is your friend who has said that his life's work is destroying me and everybody around me, I'm not coming over. I'm not working with you. I'm going to do my own agenda. And yet, he's in there sitting there talking. There's really no excuse for it. You can have people say all they want. Well, he's a majority leader. Yeah, he is a majority leader. But the president is trying to destroy him and destroy people who work for him. So don't stand by him and smile and act like nothing's happened.
And at the same time the president says he wants to get deals done, he goes out and says all the things he says publicly about Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, I don't think, is fooled by any of the niceties that President Trump dropped on him in the Rose Garden, saying we're very close, we're very good friends, because as Mika just showed a couple of hours earlier, he was on board with the Bannon plan. Steve Bannon invoked Shakespearean tragedy, saying, you know, who is Mitch McConnell, who's going to be the Brutus to your Julius Caesar, very specifically saying we've got to get rid of Mitch McConnell at the top and the GOP establishment. Donald Trump endorsed that position inside that cabinet meeting when the cameras came in, and then switched his tune outside in the Rose Garden. So why, Bill Kristol, Mitch McConnell would believe anything that Donald Trump says when he stands at his side is beyond me, and I actually don't think he does believe it.
I don't think he believes it, but they all seem willing to be humiliated by Donald Trump, and I think that's what Joe's.
And why?
That's Joe's point. Well, they want to get tax cuts.
Why?
You know, they wanted Gorsuch. Now they want tax cuts. Tax cuts is the huge shiny bauble that justifies humiliating yourself. You're the Senate Majority Leader. You've had a distinct, whatever you think of McConnell, he's had a distinguished career in the Senate for 3 decades. You stand there and basically let this, and you have to say nice things about Donald Trump. We've been friends for a long time. Right. I look forward to working with him. It's pathetic. As Joe says, they should have a little more self-respect. He doesn't have to go around attacking Donald Trump every day. Just don't go to a lunch. Don't go stand out next to him for 40 minutes while Donald Trump freelances at a press availability. But Trump loves it. Trump likes humiliating people. And look, I think he's done a pretty good, from his point of view, he's got Bannon and all these insurgents keeping the establishment Republicans off balance. What do they need now most? What does Mitch McConnell, what do those senators in those states need? They need Trump to save them from an insurgency that he himself is sort of fostering and aiding. So from Trump's point of view, he's got everyone kind of depending on him, everyone sucking up to him. But it's not healthy. And the lack of self-dignity. I mean, John McCain last night really showed you what an actual, serious, grown-up human being does when confronted with Donald Trump. But Mitch McConnell, I'm afraid, didn't.
You know, it's not just Mitch McConnell, it's Paul Ryan, Mike Barnicle. These two men have allowed themselves to be ridiculed, to be attacked. I mean, I remember one of the first times Donald Trump was standing on stage with Paul Ryan. And he said, said into a microphone, I love Paul Ryan as long as he does what I want. And then if he doesn't, well, then maybe I'll find somebody to run against him or something along that lines. Well, Paul Ryan was standing there with a Packers shirt. You know what I'd do? I'd say, hey, Mr. President, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep this Packers shirt because you don't deserve it. And I'll tell you something else I'm going to do. When you send your first budget over, I'm just going to put it in a drawer. Maybe I don't say that in front of a microphone, but I let the president know what Tip O'Neill even let Democratic presidents know. Hey, you're going to treat us with respect here, or you're going to get nothing done. And for some reason, for all of their collective wisdom, Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have never understood that they are a separate and equal part of the legislative branch.
You know, Joe, I really don't know why so many people seem so surprised by events as occurred yesterday in the White House Rose Garden with Mitch McConnell smiling, standing next to the President of the United States, who has assaulted him repeatedly on Twitter, verbally.
Repeatedly?
Yeah. I don't know why people are surprised at this. I mean, this is an institution now, right now, the United States Senate and many members of the Senate and the presidency right now that have been built in duplicity and fraudulence. This week, the president signed a proclamation yesterday, National Character Counts Week. Go find character in any of the scenes that we've shown this morning. I'll tell you where you found character, and Bill Kristol just referenced it. Last night in Philadelphia, every American ought to read the speech that John McCain gave yesterday in Philadelphia to get a sense of what being a leader and having character is all about.
Yeah, we're going to show you that in just a moment. That was amazing.
It is a joke, and people will look back and wonder what the hell happened, what fever gripped conservatives, what fever gripped the Republican Party, and I will say it, what fever gripped my own people, the people I grew up with, the people who helped me get elected, the evangelicals that go to value voter summits or whatever they call it, and give Steve Bannon a standing ovation, welcome Donald Trump as a conquering hero. And I'm using the word objectively a lot.
Yeah.
Because we are so drowned in information that you just, some things cannot be debated. And you look in Matthew and go through the Beatitudes, every single Beatitude. You go through Jesus's teaching, what he says he wants people to be. Donald Trump is the antithesis of just about every single thing that Jesus Christ said on the Sermon on the Mount. Go read it. None of us are perfect, but he goes out of his way, it seems, to thumb his nose at all conventions, including the basics of the Beatitudes.
Very well said. And
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.